Some people just change the world. Think about this. A master swordsman who also carried a revolver. A low-ranking samurai who managed to bring down an entire government. This is the story of Sakamoto Ryoma, a true visionary who basically dragged Japan out of centuries of feudal isolation and straight into the modern world. And the craziest part, he did it all before his 32nd birthday.
To really get Ryoma, you have to look at these two images. On one hand, he was a master of the katana, the very soul of the samurai. But on the other, he wore Western boots and put his trust in a Smith & Wesson revolver. He wasn't just a man of contradictions. He was the walking, talking embodiment of the conflict that was tearing 19th century Japan apart.
So, that's the big question, right? How on earth did this swordsman with a gun, this guy caught right between two completely different worlds, end up becoming the architect of a revolution that would totally reshape an entire nation? Well, Ryoma's story doesn't kick off in the grand halls of power. Not even close. It starts on the fringes. He was born an outsider, and in a Japan that was on the brink of total collapse. That perspective, well, that turned out to be his greatest strength.
Okay, so let's go back to 1836, to the rugged Tosa domain. This is where Sakamoto Ryoma was born. And yeah, his family were samurai, but they were nowhere near the top of the social ladder. In fact, they were at the very, very bottom.
The caste system in Tosala was just incredibly strict, even among the samurai themselves. You were either Joshi, the high-ranking elite, or you were Kashi, the lower class. Ryoma was Kashi, and that meant a life filled with discrimination and very few opportunities. This experience is absolutely key because it's what lit a fire in him, this burning desire for a new Japan, one free from the chains of class.
And then, just like that, the outside world came crashing in. In 1853, while Ryoma was in Edo training as a swordsman, Commodore Perry's black ships just showed up. This moment shattered more than 200 years of Japanese isolation. And when the shogunate signed what pretty much everyone saw as a humiliating treaty, the whole country just erupted in anger. The stage was set for a revolution.
This national crisis is what turns Ryoma into a political activist. But his path wasn't exactly a straight line. He started out as a radical extremist and somehow transformed into one of the most practical and forward-thinking minds of his entire generation.
So here's the turning point. It's wild. As a radical, Ryoma literally plans to assassinate Katsu Kaishu, a top official in the very government he hated. But when he confronts him, Katsu doesn't fight back. Instead, he just calmly explains that Japan couldn't just expel the barbarians. No, it had to learn from them if it wanted to survive. In that single moment, an assassin became a student. Ryoma put away his sword and basically asked to become Katsu's apprentice.
Under Katsu's guidance, Ryoma's vision started to really take shape in this document called The 8 Proposals While Shipboard. And this wasn't just some plan, it was a blueprint for a completely new kind of country. It was inspired by Western democracies and called for a constitution, an elected legislature, and the total end of the feudal system. For a samurai in the 19th century, this was just unbelievably revolutionary.
So with this incredible vision in his mind, Ryoma took on his most difficult and probably most dangerous role yet. He became the broker who would unite a fractured nation against the crumbling shogunate.
Now, the two most powerful forces that were against the government were the Choshu and Satsuma domains. The problem? They were bitter, historical enemies. They hated each other almost as much as they hated the shogun. So an alliance between them, it seemed completely impossible.
And this is where Ryoma's outsider status became his superpower. Because he was a low-ranking ronin from Tosa, he was totally neutral. He could talk to both sides. So he went back and forth between these hostile domains, patiently negotiating until he did the impossible. He brokered the secret Sacho alliance. With the shogun's greatest enemies now united, the end was definitely in sight.
With his enemies united, the pressure on the shogun was just immense. Ryoma seized the moment, and he helped engineer a peaceful transfer of power. He actually persuaded the last shogun to voluntarily resign, returning power to the emperor and officially kicking off the Meiji Restoration, and he did it without a devastating civil war.
So, Ryoma had achieved the impossible. He had brought down a 250-year-old government, and he did it mostly through negotiation. But he would never get to see the new Japan he fought so hard to create.
You have to understand, Ryoma lived with a constant target on his back. At this very inn, the Teradaya, he was ambushed by shogunate agents. He only survived because his future wife, Oryo, literally ran naked from her bath to warn him, giving him just enough time to fight off the attackers with his revolver. Danger was always right there with him. His luck finally ran out.
just weeks after the shogun's resignation. The date was December 10th, 1867. It was his 31st birthday, and he was at the Omie Inn in Kyoto, just resting with a friend.
A team of assassins stormed the inn. He was caught completely by surprise and cut down. His reported last words were, "I have been careless." And to this day, no one knows for sure who his assassins were, making his murder one of history's great unsolved mysteries. He was buried right here, in Kyoto, next to the friend who died with him that night. He passed away on the very threshold of the new era he had fought so tirelessly to create. Just a tragic end for the man who was the architect of Japan's entire future.
But his story didn't end there, not by a long shot. Today, Ryoma is one of Japan's most beloved historical figures. He's been romanticized in countless books, films, and even video games. His name is on an airport, and there are museums dedicated to his life. He is the ultimate symbol of vision, pragmatism, and revolutionary change.
Sakamoto Ryoma was a man who saw the future and just wasn't afraid to build a bridge to get there, even if that meant tearing down the world that he knew. It really leaves us with a question, doesn't it? In our own turbulent times, who is building the bridges that we need, and what will they be made of?